Ready?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Calling the infrastructure, the Selectboard meeting of August 13th, Tuesday, August 13th to order. I will chair the meeting tonight. Dan and
I'm here.
Fred are joining me in the room, and Izzy and Andy are on Zoom. Andy and Izzy, if you have something to say and I forget to look up or whatever, just feel free to jump in, please. All right, first order of business is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Moved by Dan, seconded by Fred. We do have a couple of changes, right?
Right, we have the addition of an item in the consent agenda to apply for a Transportation Advisory Committee grant through the Addison County Regional Planning Commission for the study of Elm Street and Stewart Lane. That's it, and there is an executive session at the end of the
That's
meeting.
the study. What is the study? What is it going to do?
We submitted that once before.
About the alignment of it or something?
Oh, the alignment. Oh,
Mhm.
got it. Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
I wondered if Exchange Street and Elm Street isn't equally challenging in terms of traffic and alignment, but I don't know if you can study both, same subject, for that amount of money.
Okay,
That is a good point.
all in favor of the agenda with the additions, please say aye or thumbs up.
Aye.
Is there any way we can see Andy and Izzy at the same time?
Hold on. Let's see. I will see what I can do.
Okay, thank you.
He's up at the top.
He did have his thumb up, I think. I just can't see with the. There he is. I see him now. Okay. Our second order of business is approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved by Dan, second by Fred. Anything anyone would like to call out? Fred has changes to the minutes.
Yes, on the minutes of July 23rd, lines 199 and 200, first sentence of the paragraph there. I think at the time I said two or three things, and Beth Dow, writing up the minutes, tried to put them into one sentence, and it doesn't make sense. So I'm proposing to simply replace the first sentence with Dunnington hoped that the DRB approval would be for the whole project, not just a first phase, and that with a whole project approval, phases could then proceed administratively rather than subjecting future phases to separate DRB approvals and potential subsequent appeals. That's because in the minutes prior to this, there was a discussion of having the development agreement operate by phases, and it should be one approval, and it should follow the DRB approval, and it should be left to administration and however the market proceeds with the success of the project to, so we don't have to keep subjecting this to potential approval appeals. That was what I was trying to say. I've typed this up for the benefit of those who are here, and I can email it to anybody else who'd like it, but, or Kathleen can, yes, that'd be better.
Okay.
I have a question on 3H, the flood recovery payments, the
Yes.
legislative estimates. So
Yes.
what I assume that the total amount of money we're expecting is additive across the 30,382, 191, or?
Yes, after some research,
Okay.
you have in the second column,
Yes.
section 38, the local economic grant for $30,000. That's a separate payment. And then we would be entitled to column 4 as a matter of course. That is what the state allows for the match for the non-federal share of the FEMA grants. So the Budget Adjustment Act provided for us to receive, instead of the 191, 326, the 267, 857, which is a difference of $76,530.65, making the total additional eligible through the Budget Adjustment Act of $106,530.65.
Thank you, Kathleen. I had the same question, so perfect. Thank you for asking.
Do we still understand it? Okay.
We didn't get anywhere near the $1.5 million damages, but we're grateful for whatever we got.
I'd be more grateful if there was more money.
There were considerable documents in the town manager's report as well. Did anyone have any questions about those or want to discuss anything further?
I'm interested, Kathleen, if you could later sometime send me the correspondence items to read by email. And regarding the Ilsley Library, I don't know, depending on what Kathleen and I talked about earlier, we may discuss that briefly in executive session, a legal issue relative to that. But
So are we moving that to the regular agenda?
no. If Kathleen, well, if there's a legal issue that Kathleen agrees with, we would talk about it later on in
A
executive
legal
session
issue and the
relating to
public also?
the library from the information that
Right.
was circulated by Judith.
Okay.
She raised a couple of issues in that. Anyway, it's
We're meeting the library committee. Yeah, the Ilsley 100 is meeting on Thursday, so we haven't had a chance to talk about that, any of that.
Okay. Izzy or Andy, do either of you have anything you want to call out, take out of the consent agenda? Any questions?
I just mentioned that I'm sorry that the hydro project is not feasible from the point of view of the folks from Massachusetts that were looking at it. I thought that was a really neat project, and I'm sorry they're abandoning their plan.
That would have significantly changed what that river looks like down there. That was a monstrous cut that they were gonna make there.
well, I think the addition of, in the latest edition of the agenda notes of the letter from New England Hydropower on why the economic factors explains more than you would get just from reading the FERC information or the mere withdrawal. So I hope for people who are interested in this, who want to see hydro happen someday, there are serious economic feasibility issues with it.
Okay. I will take a motion to, or we have a motion, sorry, we need a vote. Everyone in favor of the consent agenda as presented, please say aye or thumbs up. Aye. We're all in favor. Okay. Next item of business is citizen comments. This is opportunity to raise or address issues that are not otherwise on the agenda. Anyone in the room here for something other?
We have Judith.
Okay, Judy. Welcome, when you're ready.
Thanks so much. I just want to say, thank you for the Midsummer Market. It has been absolutely awesome, phenomenal, wonderful. And the most recent market had a focus on the local nonprofits. So the Middlebury Middlebury Street Committee has a table, Turning Point, the Security had a table. There's a new group that's interested in local water quality, especially around the airport. They have kids activities. Kudos to Ashley, who is the market manager. She has just, I don't know. And she has been so patient and accommodating and everything, along with Kelly Flynn and Catherine Torres, who are the Better Middlebury Partnership individuals. I mean, I know that you guys spend a lot of your time with, approving liquor licenses and, that kind of stuff. Your approval of this market is most appreciated. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Yes.
Anyone else? No other hands up?
That is, but
Andy's
Andy,
just joining us.
I would,
I always like to comment on that, the market that Table 21 funded that market for the last several years of this year. I think that's money well spent.
Great. Thank you to Table 21 as well. Okay, can we bring Emily in, please?
Sure.
The next item is requesting approval of a contract for replacement of a Boardman Street culvert. Emily Sherrington, a Public Works Planning Director, will review the proposal and apparent low bidder with us.
Sorry, I was still joining as a panelist, so I missed a little of that. But this is pretty short and sweet.
Okay.
We received a municipal roads grants and aid for $24,000, which requires a $6,000 match. And I got permission to replace the culvert that crosses Boardman Street, just above where Wilson Road intersects. So we would like to move that project forward. It has a deadline of end of September to use the funding. So time is of the essence, but we received 3 bids. All felt they were able to do it within that time frame. The parent low bid is Champlain Construction for $29,739.
Great, thank you, Emily. Any questions for Emily on that information? Somebody like to make a motion?
I move to approve the contract with Champlain Construction for $29,739 for the removal and installation of the cross culvert on Boardman Street.
Thank you, Dan.
Second.
Thank you, Fred. Moved by Dan, second by Fred. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, please say aye or thumbs up.
Aye.
Aye.
We are all in favor. Thank you, Emily. That was very short and
Thank you.
sweet.
Thanks. It was.
Okay, the next item of business is a public hearing on the adoption of amendments to the ordinance for the regulation of parking. The board is conducting a public hearing to take questions and comments from the Middlebury community regarding a proposed change to the parking ordinance pertaining to time limitations in various locations downtown. If you have a question or comment, please raise your hand. If you are in the room, when recognized, come up to the table in front. If you are on Zoom, please use the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom window to be recognized. In either case, please state your full name for the public record before you make your comment. With that, I will open the public hearing. David, do you want to give us?
Yeah, I'll give you a brief sort of recap.
Overview, and then
Yep.
we'll take questions and comments.
So this is the next step in a process for which we've had 3 or 4 conversations going back to the retreat from a month or 2 or 3 ago. These ideas come from a study the town had from about a decade ago about how to get the most out of the town's limited downtown on-street and off-street parking. There were all sorts of recommendations in that report, but these were three that the board seemed to be comfortable with as an initial step. They include, in no particular order, creating a handful of more short-term parking spots closer to the bank and the library on Main Street to kind of facilitate folks to be able to move in and out, and so that they're not taking up spots elsewhere that may be desirable for more long-term uses, an hour or 2 hours. It would create a percentage of the spots on the lower Bakery Lane parking lot would become time limited. Right now, that all the spots in the lower half of that lot are essentially all day for practical purposes. And the last step is it would increase the fine amount for a violation of the parking ordinance from 5 to 25. The select board in the last discussion opted to not triage, but rather have a flat amount for any violation. So this has been, we shared this idea obviously with Bill in Public Works and with the chief back here as we started drilling in on these ideas. We shared them to try to get any responses from the DIDC group. And obviously we've talked about it publicly here quite a few times. The fine increase is designed to simply try to encourage, during the months when we enforce them, greater compliance. Middlebury's got the lowest fines of any large town in the state of Vermont. The purpose of the changing of the times in the lower part of the Bakery Lane lot is again, the parking system is designed to help the businesses and their customers. We recognize that a lot of that lot is used all day. And since the town does have a good deal of unused parking just a block away in the Mill Street lot, it would open up spots available for whether they're going to the library or businesses. And then, to full disclosure, a percentage of folks, myself included, may very well occasionally have to park in Mill Street. So that's the gist of it, and that's the full scope of it. And I'll stop there.
Okay, great, thank you, David.
Yep.
I have a question, if you wouldn't mind coming up to the table and state your name, please.
Yeah, as I read this, a question came up in my mind. I'm Richard McCurr.
Thank you.
There's a group of about 20 of us that between Thanksgiving and the second week in January volunteer at the Sheldon to run trains. And almost all of us bring tools in, and cutting the nearby parking and increasing the fine makes it very difficult at that time of year for us to find a way to accommodate. There really are about 20 of us that come and go, and our shift is basically 4 hours, so we're outside the time frame. Is there a way to get a permission to park nearby?
Can't you just offload and go down the Mill Street? It's just down the bottom of the hill.
We're carrying tools back and forth, and
Empty your tools.
yeah, we could do that. I'm asking if there's, we're all in our 80s, and it's just not really convenient to do that. So I'm hoping somebody can think of a way to make it possible. There are usually 2 or 3 of us at a time that go up there, so we're not going to mob the place. But, a placard in the window that says, we're volunteering here.
Sounds like there's enough of you, you could apply for a public assemblage permit and through the chief, get something.
There
special
really are, we
I don't know,
run
does that work?
shifts, we
Does that
run
work,
2 or 3 at a time that are there for usually 4 to 5 hours during the day.
Chief, would that work? Could we do some, can there be some accommodation made like that for events?
It's not as easy as you might think because of volume of requests for various reasons.
Okay.
We get everything from folks working until close business when it's dark, asking for exemptions so they don't have to walk so far to their car. So it becomes difficult to manage. And then again, with parking, our number one complaints about non-turnover are the businesses. And it impacts their business, so I don't know how the town certainly could come up with some sort of permit process, but I don't know where you draw the line. I don't know what other municipalities do in that situation, but the requests may very well run the gamut.
I'm sure it's complicated.
Well, it's a hearing. We're here to hear your comment, and we'll
Give
see
us a
what
thought.
can be done,
Yeah.
I guess.
Cool. All right.
The others.
Thank you.
And maybe that's something in the next round of review of the parking ordinance that we could consider.
Yeah, I think I think the chief, we were having a broader discussion. I think he's identified some other aspects of that ordinance that probably more holistic, kind of like as a housekeeping measure. You would approach it as that. So there's no reason to think this is the last swing at it. If the town wants to come back and breathe some additional new ideas into it, we can certainly approach that.
I know in our discussions, there were other things we were considering that the chief said was very difficult to manage. I can't remember the specifics at this time, but there was something you were trying to track on spreadsheets that was onerous as well. I don't know what the answers are, but we're trying to make simple changes to the ordinance to increase turnover and make it so that people trying to do business in town have the opportunity to park and leave, and so.
The other thing to note again, the library project is going to create its own displacement, right? We're going to, I would hope I'm wrong, but I would imagine to a large degree that back upper lot's not going to be accessible to parking when they're taking down a building and building a new one. So we're going to experience the change anyway for quite a while. So the real question is, when we come out the other side, do you want to continue the changes that you've had to go through anyway, or do you want to revert right back to where you were? Because once they put a shovel in the ground, it's going to be a change of pace.
Yes,
So.
absolutely.
Parking's the law of capture, and if you have to be 400 feet further away around the corner by the bakery, take the first 20 spaces, I guess, you're in competition with all the other people downtown. Pick a non-peak time to capture that. I don't know what else to say in the short term until they come up with some other potential special event arrangement.
It's not straightforward.
I know, yeah.
Okay. We don't have any comments that I see online. Okay. If there are no further comments regarding the parking ordinance amendment, I'm going to call the public hearing closed. And then I would accept a motion from the select board if you so choose.
I move to approve the proposed amendments to the ordinance for the regulation of parking.
You have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Fred. Moved by Dan, second by Fred. Any comments on the motion? All in favor, please say aye or signify with a thumbs up.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are all in favor.
There we go.
Okay?
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
No problem.
to the policy review committee, thank
Yep.
you for your hard work on that.
Yep.
Next order of business is the approval of the proposed road names for the Stone Crop Housing Project. Kathleen, do you want to provide any
Aye.
detail, or should I read what's here?
Zeke is going to be joining us. If you could read what's there, and Zeke can fill in if there are any questions.
Is Zeke from being promoted to panelist?
Yes.
Good evening, Zeke.
All right, good evening, how are you?
Good, thank you. You? Good. Town staff has worked with representatives from Summit Properties to identify the proposed road names for the upcoming Stone Crop Housing Development site. As part of this effort, a part of the road network, 3 roads, will be deeded to the town upon completion, while 3 other roadways will remain private and be owned by the related homeowners association. The numbering of the addresses along these roads will be done once the housing project is completed and will be assigned under the guidance from related state E911 board and state addressing standards. So we have a memo with the proposed names. Any questions or comments, discussion about the proposal?
I don't have any objection to the names. They're fine. I just want to comment on the addressing should be done not when the units are completed, but when they're permitted. So that you're permitting, 28 whatever the name of the road is, or, that is very helpful for tracking for people, future and the sales of it and all that. It's just a detail.
Thank you, Fred. Izzy, Andy, any? Yeah.
No.
Good. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move to approve the proposed road names for the upcoming stone crop.
Through,
Okay.
since we have the time. So as approved at town meeting on March 4th, 2024, there is a general fund operating budget of $13.6 million with $18.8 million to be raised by taxes, as well as $1 million to be allocated from the annual local option tax fund receipts to offset capital improvement expenses. Voters also approved an article authorizing the select board to apply $133,450 from the Cross Street Bridge Reserve Local Option Tax Fund to offset PD adaptive reuse building debt service expense, reusing the amount to be raised by taxes to $8.6 million. In addition to the amount to be raised for general fund spending, the municipal tax rate also includes funding for veterans tax exemption and the fire equipment fund. The fire equipment fund is 2 cents on the tax rate. These amounts are divided by the grant list for 2025, for FY25, which is 9.9 million, resulting in the tax rate of a total tax rate of 88.94 cents combined, which is the general fund tax rate of 86.76 cents. Veterans exemptions, 0.16 cents, and fire fund of 2 cents. We also know the homestead tax rate, which is $1.94 and change. And the non-residential tax rate is $1.81.
That's the educational.
For the, yep.
That's appalling. That's about a 15% increase from last year. I just want to be on the record to say that we cannot sustain that. We cannot keep doing that. We're talking about not having people fill jobs, not being able to build houses. This is significantly impacting us. It's a real nick for me, and I'm sure a real nick for everybody. But I think at some point, we as a select board should at least take a stance that we as a municipality can't keep doing this. It's just impossible. We kept ours down to what, under 3%?
Yes.
Yeah. And we get a whopping 15% for the education tax.
And Dan, I'd like to also point out that, like education, the town budget is largely composed of unionized salaries with benefits, including health insurance. We are subject to many of the same forces which the folks say are responsible for the education increase, which is 5 times the rate of our increase.
Right. And we've mitigated ours to a 2.5% increase, and this is 15. So smaller, less administration, fewer buildings, higher student to teacher ratios. I mean, they got to do something.
So we are
They
coming
have
up
to do something.
on the
There's a
VLCT.
study going on now.
We're coming up on the VLCT, creating the municipal legislative platform for the next biennium. And perhaps the board would like to pen a letter to VLCT sharing
Great.
your concerns.
Great.
You signing up for that?
I'm on board.
Okay. Andy, was that a question or?
Yeah, I think I am attending town fair this year, as well as I served on the the policy committee and the housing committee, to set the VLCT priorities for their priorities, which are going to be agreed on by everyone at the town fair.
Thank you, Andy. So is there anything else we need to discuss before we get a motion on the municipal tax rate for FY '25? Any questions? Any further discussion?
I would comment regarding the downtown improvement tax district piece of this after we set the municipal tax rate.
Yes, I thought we would cover that separately. Is that acceptable?
At that point, I will move the select board to set the total municipal tax rate for fiscal year 25 at 88.94 cents per $100 of property value.
Thank you, Andy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
I did say that Izzy could have this one.
That's okay, I don't care.
Motion by Andy, second by Izzy. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye or signify with a thumbs up.
Aye.
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 We are all in favor. So let's talk briefly about the downtown improvement district tax rate. Fred, did you?
So, okay, well, Kathleen sent out a memo today about various agenda items, and on the top of that, she noted something that I noted, looking at the ordinance, the DIDC ordinance. Anyway, Kathleen recommends setting the downtown improvement district tax rate at a time when the board may hold a public hearing, which she proposes for August 27th. Is that right? So,
And additionally, that would allow this to be advertised with the agenda, the setting the downtown district tax rate, which was not included on the published agenda.
the ordinance that exists, that's still in effect, allows the rate that has been set to continue through fiscal year FY '25, which we're in. So if there's a hearing on it, is the hearing?
I just
Oh,
thought
the
that would be a
amendments?
good opportunity for people that were interested enough to come out for the DIDC hearing to see you set the tax rate for the district and talk about it.
Okay,
That was my reasoning.
under the
Provided.
existing ordinance, not the
Yeah,
amendments. that
correct.
we're Talking about, okay.
Nothing's been said at this point.
It'd be appropriate for them to discuss too.
Yep.
In the way in of EMD.
Has the public hearing on the renewal of the DIDC been warned, or do we need
Yes.
to do that? Okay,
Yes,
and that's scheduled for the 27th already?
yes.
So on the 27th, we will also discuss and set the tax rate for the DIDC. Okay?
The other thing is that when we were doing appointments last spring, we didn't have any applicants at the time for the Downtown Improvement District Commission members. And there's certain categories that want us to represent property owners and other businesses and things like that. And I think we need to ask for some, or recruit some people that,
You still
So-
have one vacancy, don't you? One?
I think there are two.
so that needs to happen in between now and then somehow.
In the agenda that we post, can we maybe include a note somewhere that we're looking for anyone interested to fill a vacancy on that commission?
Right, and we have certain positions that we have to fill as to whether it's a downtown business, downtown resident,
Okay.
what have you. So, yes,
Did we vote on that motion? We did, right? Yes.
on the municipal tax rate.
Yes, we did.
Yep.
Okay.
It's complicated.
Anything further on the municipal tax rate or downtown improvement district tax rate?
Which one of these numbers fills which category?
We are on item 11, acknowledge receipt of a citizen's petition objecting to the conveyance of an easement to Vermont Gas to provide utility service to St. Stephen's Church. Approval of a warning for a special town meeting and election. Kathleen, is there anything you want me to cover here?
Just to note that you did receive a petition signed by at least 5% of the voters calling for a special town meeting on the matter of granting an easement to Vermont Gas to service St. Stephen's Church. I prepared a draft warning, which has been reviewed by council, and the question to be put before voters at a special town meeting on September 30th with voting on October 1st. Both the town meeting and the voting to be held here at the town offices. Shall the legal voters of the town of Middlebury approve the current deed of easement agreement as approved by the Middlebury Selectboard at their meeting on June 25th, 2024, and convey to Vermont Gas Systems a land easement to install service to St. Stephen's Episcopal Church?
Okay. Any discussion?
I also reviewed the warning with the town moderator, who was in agreement with the wording of the question and will prepare for the special town meeting on September 30th.
Okay.
What was the reason to put it in October? Is there a certain time once you get the petition, you have to have a?
I worked with Karen Mott, who said that, town clerk Karen Mott, who said that she would rather have a special town meeting than try to wrap it into the general election, which is going to be complicated enough.
Make just a busy,
I did,
busyness for her.
yeah, I asked her about it too, and she had some very valid reasons for not moving our regular meeting. Which was very brave of her. Is there any appetite to consider a meeting change in the end of September, or will we keep our proposed meetings in September as the 10th and the 24th with our special meeting for the town meeting vote on the 1st for the 30th, Monday the 30th? Are we good with that schedule? Keep it as is?
I have no objection to that scheduling. Personally, I have to be away both September 30th and October 7th. I'm going to try to participate by Zoom. I don't know, will the public hearing before this vote on that, would that be a Zoom meeting?
Yes.
Okay, I'll be able to listen in. I'd like to.
Since there isn't going to be any voting allowed at the special town meeting, we will offer a Zoom option.
Great.
So I missed it. We're going to do the 24th, the 30th, and October 7th.
Yes,
Yep.
I think so. We are keeping our regular schedule with the addition of the meeting on the 30th.
Thank you.
Is that what everybody understands? That's good?
We don't have to have a quorum at that meeting.
It's an information meeting.
Right.
No action items. Okay, moving on. We are on item 12, request for a letter to Vermont Agency of Transportation regarding use of pesticides at the Middlebury State Airport. Ross Conrad, who is here, has recently submitted to the town concerns about the presence of PFAS in the drinking water sources of the town, referencing the finding of a 1980 town aquifer assessment report. He is raising a concern that pesticides used by the airport management to control weeds along the airport's perimeter and by farmers near the airport may enter into the aquifer, and contaminate the town's water supply. He is requesting that the town select board write to the state of Vermont Agency of Transportation to direct the airport management team to cease using pesticides at the facility. Do you want to add anything, Ross?
Well, as you know, the aquifer that supplies the majority of the town with their drinking water sits directly under the airport, the northern half. as well as to the north of the airport. We have engineering studies that show that this is rocky, sandy soil. There is a clay layer, but it's not consistent over the area. And so water, among other things the water may carry, can leach down into that aquifer. We know that the airport sprays pesticides to keep vegetation down around the perimeter, the fence line of the airport, at least, if not other things. And recent information has come out that more and more staff, I just have one actually I brought with me that just from last month, published peer-reviewed studies that show that the PFAS compounds, the forever chemicals that really resist degrading over time and for all human time frame purposes pretty much last forever. These are being found in pesticides. Sometimes there is an active ingredient added to the pesticide. Sometimes they're a adjuvant added to the pesticide to make the active ingredients more effective. And sometimes, apparently, it leaches from the plastic containers that the pesticides are stored in and gets into the pesticide that way. So, this issue of pesticides at the airport over the town aquifer, which is, by the way, a very unique situation. I don't think there's any other municipality in the state that has their water supply sitting underneath an airport. So this situation has come up as a concern in the past, especially from the residents living around the airport area. And now that we know that these forever chemicals are potentially being spread there as well, it's come to the point where I feel like something needs to be done. And quite frankly, there's no one that's responsible for the safety of our water supply other than you folks sitting around this table and the
Water
TV monitor. What's that?
Water department.
No, they're not. We talked, he said that they're not responsible for protecting it. They deliver it. They have to make sure it's, other things, but they're like a regulatory responsible for doing it, something like that, at least according to Bill Kiernan, from what I've heard. I haven't talked to him directly. That is second information from somebody else that someone told me that they spoke to him and he said that. So I don't know that personally, but that's what I've been told. And so the request is because I know the town is testing the water regularly, and to date, from what I understand, they haven't found contaminants of these PFAS chemicals in the water supply, at least at the level that the test results are able to detect. And so rather than continuing to just sample and test and kind of monitor, waiting for potentially these things to show up, because you got to just common sense seems to suggest that if we spread these chemicals on the land and they don't go away and the land is permeable, at some point they're going to make their way down into the water. Most likely. It just seems very reasonable to expect that could happen. And so the request is that, yes?
I always thought that the figure that like the largest PFAS contamination issue around airports had to do with fire suppressing systems.
That's
historically.
historically.
There were PFAS elements used in a number of the fire control systems there.
Yeah, historically, that's been the primary source, or at least the first source that was identified that became of concern. But now we're finding them in pesticides, and they're being
I was
used.
not aware of the pesticide herbicide thing, and
Yep.
the leaching from plastic containers sounds like that's basically impossible to prevent, given the use of plastic as a container in every aspect of modern society.
Yeah, it's a huge issue that we're just starting, I think, to see the tip of the iceberg on, quite frankly. They've found apparently the PFAS chemicals in mother's milk. Knowing that there's all kinds of diseases and health issues associated with these things, it's something we want to try to get some kind of a handle on, I think, which is why the request to you folks tonight is to contact the Department of Agriculture and ask them to use alternate means of controlling the vegetation at the airport in order to help preserve the quality and integrity of our town water supply.
You mean V-Trans, not the Department of Agriculture.
V-Trans.
Yeah.
No, see, V-Trans, so what's interesting, Department of Agriculture.
They regulate pesticides.
They do,
but
right.
V-Trans
Uses it.
uses them.
Uses them. And historically, interestingly enough, V-Trans would get a permit from Department of Ag or the Pesticide Advisory Council, which now has become the Ag Innovation Board, to spray pesticides in the right-of-ways for roads and everything, for all V-Trans's facilities. And they included the airport in that. However, they've come to the realization that there is no right-of-way at the airport because the state owns all that property. So now they're not applying for permits anymore. So there's actually not even that minimal regulatory oversight is no longer there when it comes to use of pesticides at the airport. Basically, V-Trans can use what they want, when they feel it's necessary currently. And it's all up to them. There's no agricultural oversight anymore because they're not needing a permit to spray there because it's not a right-of-way. It's their property.
So it seems to me at this point, we would need someone to draft a letter. Is there anyone on the board interested in doing that work?
Can't the town manager do that work?
Well,
She's a much better writer than me.
Well, why don't I give you a draft and
is that acceptable to ask you to?
If it's too much, I could put something together for you if you prefer. I don't want to put a lot of extra burden on you guys. I'm just trying to, but somebody needs to do it for sure.
Okay.
I'll work with Ross and we'll get something for you.
This report was 45 years ago?
The what?
This report that we have on the
The
protection of-
original one, but in the packet, interestingly enough, I think Kathleen was right on top of it a couple of days after I sent her this request. It looks like you received an evaluation from an engineer that also looked at it and basically came to all the same conclusions that this report from 1980 found.
Wow. Took a while to get here.
Well, the Agency of Natural Resources has done some significant regulatory things concerning public water supplies since in the last 45 years. They have upped this to require water systems, at least this is my memory from when I worked with the town 11 years ago now. They had well source protection areas that were identified, and those were mapped, included in the town plan. And in the town plan, on page 153, under wellhead protection areas, there's a special overlay district that relates to zoning and particular protection actions that can be taken. And I'll just add, the sentence says, to supplement zoning, the select board may consider an aquifer protection ordinance and monitoring and inspection program, as well as a public education program regarding the importance of protecting the town's water supply. That's the 2018 version, and that's the same language as in prior town plans. There's also land use zoning on this, and the description of the 1980 aquifer and the subsequent things is on page 22 of the town plan. So there's other things in there, and in the zoning ordinance, section 680 on page 136 gives very broad protection if we are able to discover anything. This is not limited to the airport. I mean, the center of the airport where they do the fueling is a mile away from Palmer Springs. And the gradient noted of the groundwater level in the 1980 plan is practically dead level between the two, 0.011 slope. Water, can move if it's downhill, but it doesn't move across a level very much. So, and at the time of 1980, there was a whole airport dusting operation there. Alphonse Cannell and his John and family, that ceased, seems like 20 years ago. So the level of concern for pesticides went way down at that point. But there's other land use activities and much closer than the airport that have potential. So these things were written into the town plan and zoning. And I think the water department, while they may not be responsible for that enforcement part, there could be work done, as the town plan recommends, to supplement that, both educational and supplementary ordinance. And they ought to be responsible for some monitoring. And I'm aware that the water department used to do some monitoring years ago, and I don't know, maybe they still do in certain places as a way of intercepting or detecting any movement. But I think the Agency of Natural Resources has their hand in this through their approval of the wellhead protection plans that public water supplies are supposed to have. Am I correct about that, Kathleen, or not?
Yes.
Okay. So there's
We have our
a
own
lot
staff
more.
member on that. Selectboard.
No, it's history.
Yeah, sure.
So,
I just don't want you to think the town is insensitive to.
No, I wasn't,
Water supply.
yeah, I understand that.
Project for the policy review committee.
I was just, so you mentioned something about,
I do.
something about an ordinance?
Yes.
Yeah, the select board might approve them.
No, we wrote the strongest thing we could write in zoning in there, but zoning applies to land development, building of buildings, new land use changes. And an aquifer protection ordinance could regulate current uses of land without any building or things that would be subject to zoning. So if you were looking for things where there might be gaps or there might be an inadvertent dumping or something like that. And that the whole philosophy about whether there should be public education or warning or not revealing to people where our water source is that thinking is changing on that. So I just would like to A, let people know there's a lot else there, and B, I agree with the idea of writing a letter to the Agency of Transportation. They're not the only landowner.
So, yeah, I was trying to keep it simple, and so my initial request here is just to deal with Agency of Agriculture, but if the select board felt that, an ordinance that was more blanket, that it dealt with all the landowners in the area, I think that would be fantastic. I thought maybe that would be
Well,
too much to
it's-
ask, quite frankly, but if it's in the town plan, the suggestion, I think that's something that the select board should seriously consider acting upon.
I mean, it's a huge area of the town. That's what's in
Oh, yeah, it is. All along the base of the Green Mountains there.
basically from Lindale south, and at the center of the airport, according to the 44-year-old study, the groundwater flows towards East Middlebury rather than ever so slightly towards the north. But it's a serious issue because we rely very heavily on the Palmer Springs well. So I appreciate the concern for it and support the efforts.
David, I know the policy review committee has a long list of items right now, but maybe we could add that to the, I don't expect that.
There's the chairman going like that right now, so.
Are you saying bring it on, Andy? Yeah. Maybe it's something as you've tackled some of the other projects on the list that we could start to, I have no idea what's involved with that, so.
That's the powerhouse committee, they like things.
Yes, I know.
They can do things.
So just for clarity, is that in addition to the letter you talked about, or?
Yes.
Oh, great,
Yes.
okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes. So, so Kathleen will work with Ross, I guess, and give us a draft to review, and we'll go from there.
At your next meeting.
Izzy or Andy, did either of you have comments you wanted to make on the request for a letter? Good.
I think it makes sense. I think we should absolutely ask the state to defend any of their practices and constantly remind them that they bear some responsibility for the protection of our groundwater.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Ross. We
Thank
will
you.
get that letter in a future select board packet.
Appreciate it.
Item 13, recommendation for the installation of sidewalk railing at 30 Main Street and approval of the contract award. Is Bill?
He is not. He
Okay.
is not. I will be.
Is there anything you want me to read here, Kathleen?
Yeah, you can go ahead and read that.
Okay.
Yep.
In response to citizen complaints about the difficulty associated with traversing the raised sidewalk cobblestone area on Main Street at the intersection of Main Street and Printers Alley, directly in front of the National Bank of Middlebury, the Department of Public Works has researched possible solutions to this pedestrian safety matter. The department is proposing the installation of a handrail along the raised part of the sidewalk, which will deter people from using that stretch of raised sidewalk. The handrail would be similar in design to other already existing handrails in the downtown area. We have a proposal from Wildflower Ironworks for $11,500, which includes an opening at the center of the railing to align with the entrance to the bank. Since this is an unbudgeted expense, funding for this proposal would come from the town's annual funding for sidewalk repair and replacement costs. Please come up and share your comments with us.
Thank you. So I'm Caroline Carpenter here for National Bank Middlebury. I'm just here with a comment and a request. The comment is that raised curb has proven to be treacherous for people. And I think the most effective long-term solution is to redesign that. And I understand that's cost prohibitive, but I just want everyone to kind of keep an eye on that maybe in the future it could be redesigned. In the meantime, a railing seems like, the best thing to try. Keeping in mind that it's in front of the Duclos building, which will be a library soon, and not sure what use it will have in the future. It'll probably continue to be community retail, that sort of thing. And it sounds like that's been considered in terms of having this opening. And then my request is Jamie McKenna, our Chief Project Officer, has not seen a design yet, and the paperwork implied he had. So he's out of town and let me know this weekend he hadn't seen it. And as a courtesy, it would be wonderful if Jamie could look over the design before it's installed.
I think that's a reasonable request.
This is something that Bill had looked into several years ago, so it may have been with a previous property manager.
Okay. So when we make the motion, can we just include, approve with the condition of review with the property manager of the National Bank? Because I think that's acceptable.
Right, Chief Project Officer is Jamie's title. Jamie McKenna.
Chief Project Officer.
So,
Sorry, just a second, Fred. I think we should maybe try to get this on a future agenda item for the infrastructure committee and maybe talk with Emily and Bill about it further. My recollection, which may be incorrect, is that the installation of that had something to do with stormwater management in that area and trying to keep stormwater from flowing to the entrance of the bank, or yes, because of the difference in the road height and the sidewalk height there. So I think it might involve some additional engineering to consider your request that we redesign it.
Oh, I'm sure it will be complicated and expensive. So just looking way down the road, as other things change, I just think it'd be important to.
So maybe we, Kathleen, would you just?
I'll make a note of it for, it would be
Emily to-
September 14th at this point.
Okay, yes.
So you don't want to take the railing to the infrastructure, you want to.
No.
Got it, okay.
The request to maybe consider
Yes.
a alternative, I think would require some engineering and some further discussion. I don't think, Sue? I don't think we should defer this request. Do you consider, other than having your property, what did you say?
Jamie
Chief
McKenna.
Project Officer reviewing that
Railing design.
railing design, is there any other concern with us not going ahead with that?
No, I think it's a good attempt. People will still get out in the road.
The
It
issue
will maybe
is,
deter some people from walking over it.
yeah, the issue is people park right there. It's a raised curb and they want to travel immediately from their vehicle
And walk over
across
it.
that, and it's not designed for that. I remember Bill telling us about that.
But the problem is that it's raised and then it falls again to
Right.
the sidewalk, and people stumble over that. So the opening and the railing at the Duclos building, when people stumble through that opening,
They'll still be going through that as well. I
There's
mean,
Bill
if,
right
if
there.
it's blocked completely, people will walk on the road, which has its own hazards. But the surface is uneven and it's pretty tall, so people have had trouble.
And additionally, walking down the street, if you're not paying attention and you're not looking at, you can fall over that thing. It's very disconcerting to me when I walk down there the first few times and go, wow, that's there. The railing is gonna highlight that.
Right, it could make
So
it
it's
more
gonna- it's
visible.
gonna keep you from
Absolutely, yeah.
going, so.
No, we just want to take a look at the design.
Bill, do you want to come up and
Sure.
share? I appreciate you being here tonight. We are ahead of schedule.
I heard. Quite a bit.
So, hey,
Caroline,
you know,
National Bank of Middlebury.
Yeah,
You let me chair a meeting and we are ahead of schedule.
good. Yeah, so the railing will kind of bring an awareness to that. And in the center of that, we're going to have probably a 4 or 5 foot opening. It will actually be a T railing. So you will have a handrail to step down or to step up. So it will just,
And we've all seen the wildfire ironworks. They're all over town.
yes.
They've done everything. They're really fast.
And I have actually previously contacted NOPS and they did not want to infringe on John's copyright. So, the ask has been there and John's the guy and he's actually contemplating retirement at some point too, so.
Okay,
Thank you.
And thank you for giving the library that space.
Oh.
That's a fabulous community.
Be a good use of that floor.
Yeah.
Great.
Just on your screen is the picture we have of the design, and it is in the packet. It was added
thank
to
you.
the packet
Thank you for
today.
Thank you for adding that. I appreciate it. Okay,
Yeah, for the cars.
yeah.
It-
Or certainly add to the picture.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what is the pleasure of the select board? Would we like to
Yes.
move forward?
I move to approve the proposed purchases installation by Public Works of a handrail at 30 Main Street from Wildfire Ironworks for $11,500 after review by the Chief Project Officer of the National Bank of Middlebury.
Thank you, Ann.
Second.
Is there a second? Who was that?
I got Andy first.
Andy first?
Sorry, Izzy.
Andy's got the second on that motion. Thank you, Andy. So a motion from Dan, second from Andy. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye or thumbs up.
aye.
We are all in favor. Okay. Perfect, thank you.
Shame we couldn't use that money towards the proper long-term approval, but I guess it's too much. Talking a trench drain probably, right?
There is some reason why that exists there the way it does. We've had this conversation multiple times.
All right.
It's treacherous.
Let's talk about it in infrastructure and figure out what we need to do to consider other options then. All right, so the next item on the agenda is the appointment of town treasurer. In July of 2022, Beth Dow was appointed by the select board to fill the unexpired term of Jackie Sullivan. In March 2023, Beth Dow was elected to a 3-year term as town treasurer. The amendment to the town charter to make the town treasurer an appointed position had not yet been approved by the state legislature. By the time the amendment was approved and went into effect, it slipped everyone's mind that the treasurer's position had now moved to an appointed position. Beth wishes to remain in the position, and we are being asked to appoint her to continue as town treasurer.
I move that the board appoint Elizabeth J. Dow as town treasurer to continue in her 3-year term ending in March 2026.
Thank you, Fred. Is there a second?
There is, second.
Isn't she retired? Didn't she retire?
Not as
She
treasurer.
Really failed at retirement.
Oh, no. Not the only.
Everyone that retires, I ask them if their retirement plan is the Beth Dow retirement plan. Okay, there is a motion from Dan, a second by Andy, right? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion?
Good to clean this up.
Yes. All in favor, please say aye or signify with thumbs up.
Aye.
Aye.
We are all in favor. Okay. Approval of check warrants.
Ooh,
Is that you, Andy?
that's me. That's me. Hang on.
Okay,
I got
take
it
your time.
somewhere. Oh, there it is. I have reviewed the warrants and I move to approve total expenditures in the amount of $1,091,109.73, consisting of $779,665.35 for accounts payable and $311,444.38 for payroll for the period of July 24th, 2024 through August 13th, 2024.
Thank you, Andy. I'll second that motion. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please signify with thumbs up or aye.
Aye.
We are all in favor. Select member concerns. Let's start with those on Zoom. Izzy, do you have any concerns?
Just wanted to say thank you to everyone who helped out with voting, both today and early voting, in the prior couple days ahead of today.
Thank you, Izzy. Andy?
That is a great comment. I was going to say nothing except give you guys a beautiful picture of this lake.
Oh,
But
man.
I went for early voting as well and was absolutely amazed at Karen handling someone who had apparently gone there with the intent of being difficult. And her skill in diffusing everything was masterful.
Awesome. I will jump in on the subject and just say I worked the polls this morning, checking voters in from 6:45 to around 1. And I would just concur that Karen does an amazing job, and we are very fortunate to have her as our town clerk.
I'll jump in to say that I worked after the afternoon shift until just before the meeting tonight and concur with everything you've said.
Great.
I got harassed there today.
By Heather.
I just, like an hour ago, I got harassed.
How did I figure that out?
Harassed.
It was considerable turnout for the, it was,
For the evening?
yeah, nearly 1,500 was, I thought.
I thought it was fairly mild for daytime, but I don't have a lot of daytime check-in experience, so. Anyway, Fred, do you have anything else you would like to add?
Nothing else.
Okay, Dan?
Nothing.
Okay, I am all set. So we are ready for a motion to move into executive session.
And I have been chosen to recite the motion. So I move, before I say this, Colleen, is there a portion of this that's not applicable? Is it one or the other? There's three options.
We're doing the personnel.
Okay. I move to enter into executive session with the inclusion of the town manager and assistant town manager related to the appointment of a public officer or employee as allowed under Title I, Section 313A3 of the Vermont statutes.
I'll second the motion. All in favor, please say aye or thumbs up.
Aye.
Thumbs up. We are all in favor. Do we need another motion? Okay, great. We are moved into executive session at 8:19 p.m.